Do you know that there was once a shocking real case in Hong Kong, even made the atheistic police officer questioning about their beliefs? Well, buckle up, because I am going to tell you one of the most bizarre and horrific incidents in Hong Kong, the red dress ghost murder case. This horrific accident happened on 15th August 1974 in a cheap motel called the Great Wall Villa in the Mong Kok district of Hong Kong. That morning, the hotel employee named Mrs. Chen went to wake up the guest in room 5 as told by her night shift colleague. But what she saw later had become the biggest nightmare of her entire life. When she entered the room, horrifically, there was a woman's corpse laying on the bed, and the body's eyebrows, eyelids, nose, lips, both her ears and breast, also the genital, had been cut off, and her hair was also being chopped off very messily. So Mrs. Chen screamed and immediately called the police. The police very quickly to arrive at the scene, but they can only find a bra. There was no fingerprints or any other evidence in the scene. The room is also very clean, like cleaned up by the killer. And based on the description from the hotel staffs, they soon pieced together the scratches of the victim and the suspect. The victim was a sex worker, and the suspect was her regular client who visited her in this motel about once a week. So that's why the staffs remember them. But back in the 70s, cheap motels like these in Hong Kong usually didn't have surveillance cameras. So the police can only rely on these scratches and description and releasing the hunt for the killer to the public. Then this thing took a very dramatic turn. The lead investigator officer of this case, Mr. Chen, received an anonymous letter from the killer who called himself the Black Wolf of Great Wall. The letter very arrogantly mocked and made fun of the Hong Kong police about their weak capabilities. Mr. Chen was furious, but a few days later, the killer even defiantly called Mr. Chen in person, and he's telling him to check the room's air conditioning unit. He's telling him that what you are looking for is right in the AC unit. And sure enough, they found the victim's body parts wrapped in several plastic bags and stuffed inside. On August 19th, an old woman came to the Tsuen Wan police station with a photo, identified the victim's scratches as her 30-year-old daughter named Lau Fu Man. As it turns out, the victim was living in a very hard life because she has to support 2 daughters and also an elderly mother by herself. So she worked as a prostitute in order to earn more money to support the family. By investigating the victim's client list, the police identified the suspect is one of her regular clients, a 38-year-old man named Leung Jiupeng. So they rushed to his apartment and successfully found the victim's ID, clothing, and also the murder weapon, like without any surprise. But however, the killer already left the house. It was his uncle who was at the house at that time. So while the police is questioning his uncle, the phone rang, and experienced police immediately know it was definitely called by the killer. So the police ordered his uncle to pick up the phone, but after he picked up, he shouted into the phone, say, "Run! The police is here. They are looking for you." Although the police were very angry at the time, but they couldn't do anything real to his uncle. So unfortunately, once again, the killer slipped away. On August 22nd, the victim's family held a funeral for her. And due to the seriousness of this case, so many reporters also were present. And when the ceremony almost finished, suddenly, the victim's brother grabbed a kitchen knife, muttering in Cantonese, and walked to his sister, then harshly plunged the knife on the coffin before burying it. Turns out it was an Eastern Maoshan Taoist ritual. It's able to let the soul of the victim become a malevolent spirit and go for her revenge. Why this case is so bizarre? Because at that night, this case took an even stranger twist. a police officer was patrolling an alley in the Samsuipo district, and he found a man had fallen off from a building. He is under very serious injuries and bleeding from his nose, mouth, and also the police noticed that this man looked very scared, and he kept repeating to the police officer, saying that, "There's a red dress ghost. It's her. She pushed me downstairs." So at first, the police thought he had some mental issues, but while checking his belongings, the police found a photo of him with the victim in his jacket, and also with his handwritten the victim's stage name and words like "fresh cuts" on the back of the photo. So the police finally identified this man was the killer, the 38-year-old Leung Jiuping. So it's hard to imagine a killer with such an arrogant attitude, like wrote letter and called the police station in person, will eventually arrest in such a bizarre way. And also, even in the court, he was still insisting he was pushed by a ghost. And the case lead officer, Mr. Chen, claimed to be an atheist all his life, but he also got lost in words while discussing this case. What's more, the killer was sentenced to 10 years in prison for the murder. So if he's still alive, he would be an elderly man living in his 80s in Hong Kong right now. Okay, so that's the end of the famous Hong Kong red dress ghost murder case. What do you think about the ending? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.